if anyone else wants to introduce themselves, they're welcome. Otherwise, if anyone in the group here has a question or suggested topic, that would be very welcome. I don't know if Chinmoy Prabhu wanted to propose anything.
Well, I know that Ananga Manjari Didi, she from previous Zoom meeting was wanting to ask a question.
That's right. That's right. Thanks for reminding us about that. That's right. Ananga Manjari, do you want to tell us again? It was something about preaching, I think, your question.
Yeah, I was wondering how in my area, maybe I could start some preaching to the people in my area.
Uh-huh. So you're looking for ideas.
Ideas?
Okay, all right. Well, that's a great topic, and that's something many can share suggestions. I can say something, and then maybe Chinmoy Prabhu and others. Brahma Samhita. I thought we covered the Brahma Samhita question already. I thought we did, but if someone feels it wasn't answered, then we can certainly address it. So about preaching, you're living in East London, right?
Southeast London, a little bit far from that.
Okay, you live close to the East London Temple, right?
Kind of.
Okay. Well, I mean, preaching is something that can take place on different levels. Now there is I see Varun has a question here. Okay, awesome. We'll get to that after this one. Preaching is something that can take place on different levels. Of course, there's the direct expression of it, where we are verbally conveying something to someone. We are directly trying to share something about the teachings of Krishna consciousness. There's that very direct form of preaching. But also we should not discount many of the more subtle, indirect ways in which we can try to share. I mean, essentially preaching is giving persons a chance to acquire Sukriti, giving persons a chance to develop a favorable feeling, a favorable vision of Krishna consciousness. So that sometimes it's even more effective for it to take place in a more subtle and indirect way. So for example, just if you're dressing with devotional clothes and you're going out in the neighborhood and you're looking, nice and you're looking nice and clean and pious and upstanding person, then that's something that can attract people. I know for myself, because I wear these clothes like a uniform. So every day I'm always wearing this devotional dress. So I've had many experiences which show that just by always going out like this, you are attracting people who have some openness in their heart, who have some touch of Sukriti in their heart. I remember once a few years ago when I was in Brazil, I was flying from one city to another, and this never happened before there, but on this one occasion when I was flying between, it's such a huge country, so to get from city to city, you have to fly generally. But on this one occasion, I had a 7-hour stopover. It was a domestic journey, but somehow I ended up with this flight where I had a 7-hour stopover in between cities, and I think I hadn't slept the night before, and I was just in this terrible space. And I normally if I just have nothing to do, I'll sit and read something or listen to something. But I was just feeling so bad. I just couldn't do anything. So I was just in this like zoned out space, sitting in the airport for hours and hours. And I was feeling so bad. Like I can't do anything. I'm just sitting here. And ended up people watching. I was just watching everyone going back and forth and shopping and talking. And so I was feeling in a pretty low place. And then at one point I started just pacing back and forth in this one area, just going back just to do something. And then there was this man who came running up to me. What was it that he said exactly? I can't quite remember. What was it that he said? I can't remember. He said something a little provocative. It was something about believing in God. I wish I could remember. I can't remember right now. But he said something a little provocative, and it was in such a way that I didn't want to answer. And so I said to him, well, maybe I don't want to answer your question, something like that. And then, I'm sorry, I can't remember the details of our exchange. But anyway, it turned out that he was actually a very righteous, in a good sense, a Christian. And because he saw me dressed like this, then he could see I'm standing for something, for some spiritual conception. And he was inspired by that. We ended up having a very nice exchange. But anyway, this is just one example. It happens all the time. People, they'll come up to you because they see you're dressed like this, and they're attracted and they're interested. They want to hear something. So anyway, just presenting yourself like that, that is one form of preaching. Also, for those who are, in the workplace or like yourself or in school, just by being open, maybe you can't dress like you're a devotee all the time, but just by letting it be known, it's not something that you're hiding, that you're ashamed of. Just by, you have your kunti mala, your neck beads at least. And, when people ask you, what are your beliefs, you're sharing something. So just by letting it be known that that's who you are, and by carrying out your duties in a good way, in a positive way, then that impresses people. It's actually a very powerful way to preach, because many people, they have stereotypes about who we are. They think we're hippies, or they think we're nonsense, or they think we're low class, or foolish people, or lazy people, whatever. There's 101 different stereotypes that people have. But if we can show people that, no, we have intelligence, we are honest people, we're good people, we're friendly people, we're kind people, we're hardworking people, we're helpful, etc., etc. If we give this kind of impression, then it changes people's stereotypes, and it causes them to look upon the devotees in a favorable light. It softens their hearts, it opens their minds. So just by doing what you're doing, working hard at school, getting good grades, being friendly to others, etc., etc., and at the same time being open about who you are and what you stand for, that's actually a very powerful way to preach. And we saw our Gurudev, he appreciated when devotees had, respectable jobs, they had a good education, they had good jobs, etc. So our Gurudev appreciated that. Because it's of course it's not the be all and end all, but in a general sense, it gives our ideology, it gives it some stronger place within the world. People have to pay attention if someone who has a good, so-called good position in society is standing for this ideology. People have to pay attention to that. There's a famous verse in Bhagavad Gita, that yad achrati sheshtas, saying that the masses, they will follow the ways of the great men, the great persons in society. And our Param Gurudev, our grandfather Guru Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he came from a very high class Brahmin family. They grew up speaking household Sanskrit. That's how highly cultured his family was. And so when he came to join the Gaudiya mission, then his guru, Srila Saraswati Thakur, he chanted this verse from Bhagavad Gita. He was happy because he felt if someone like this, Srila Sridhar Maharaj is coming to join our mission, then it gives some stronger position to our society. People have to pay attention if they see we have members like this. So even if someone is not able to do any kind of direct preaching, just by living their lives in an upstanding way, that's a strong indirect way to preach. And it's not something to dismiss. So there are those aspects of preaching, and then in terms of more direct ways of preaching, there's many things. The best thing may be to connect. I know you're already involved at the temple, but maybe if there are others there who are interested, you could discuss with them things that you can do in your local neighborhood. Maybe there's so many things you could do. You may be able to put up a stall somewhere with some books and flyers. There may be a little space where you could hold a weekly meeting. If you're very brave, you could approach persons on the street with some books or flyers. Of course, nowadays, maybe these aren't so viable with the whole COVID situation. I don't know exactly what the situation is in England now. So some of these more outdoor forms of preaching may not be so practical. But if not now, then in the future. I know that at one time, some of the devotees in London, Braja Bihari Prabhu was one of them. He set up a book stall at Trafalgar Square, which is a very, prominent place in London. And our Gurudev was so happy about that. And he made a comment, now we will conquer. That's what I heard. Now we will conquer. So every now and again, I remember that and think, oh, I would like to do that one day for the satisfaction of our Gurudev. Doing outdoor kirtan, if you can get a good group together, going out in the streets for Nagar Sankirtan. Although, some devotees, I admire their bravery in going out in small groups of 2 or 3 or 4. I admire that type of conviction. But at the same time, it's really preferable if you can get a good group together, at least 10 people or 15 people, for the dignity of who and what we are. And I know our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, he definitely preferred that. He liked there to be a strong, it's presentation is important when it comes to preaching. So he likes that a kirtan group would look, look dignified and look strong. So he definitely preferred that bigger groups would go out. So if you're able to organize that also, that would be wonderful. I think the best teamwork is an important key to success in preaching. So if you can find somebody else, maybe another devotee close to your age would work nicely. If you could find somebody else who's also interested, then you could, or one of your friends, you can inspire. You mentioned your friend Brinda. If you can inspire your friend Brinda to get involved, if you have someone else to connect with, you can sit and discuss different ideas. That would probably be the best way forward. What else? Chinmoy Prabhu, you want to share any suggestions?
Well, I think one of the most important things that you already mentioned is that just being a devotee, the qualities of a devotee are supremely attractive. That's why we are attracted to them. So if you are, practicing humility, tolerance, giving on to others without expecting any for yourself, that will be attractive for many people, and they'll want to know why. How is this person like this? So that's, I think, one way. And then just on a practical basis, like if you're a student, which I think Ananga Manjari Didi is, there's always clubs there. We used to go to the local community college, do a Bhakti yoga club. And maybe now it would have to be online, Zoom club, but I'm sure there must be ways to start clubs. And if you know a few people who will start up a club and, just have some online meetings about the Bhagavad Gita or something like that. It can be something very small, but the intention is the important thing.
Very nice, very nice. Yes, that was something I wanted to mention too about clubs, and especially when I think you're planning to go to university. I mean, like university students, they're the best. They're just the best group to target, because they're at that, they're old enough, they're mature enough to be able to consider something seriously, and they're young enough to still be more open-minded than your average, older person.
Didi, Hare Krishna.
Yes.
I just wanted to say as well, I know down in Canterbury, I think with the university, you just need 3 people, and then you can start a society in a university, which is a really good way of doing preaching.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah.
You only need 3 people. Yeah,
For
I mean,
university.
when I was in London, I always wanted to connect with university students, but unless you have an insider, then it's very difficult. And previously, Lalita Madhava and Pandita, they organized a society at SOAS in London, and they had some big programs there, because they were going to that university, so they could, they were the liaison with the temple. So, when you're at university, then yeah, that's good to know. You only need 3 people. You can register a society and connect with the temple and try and organize some flow there. So does anyone else want to share any suggestions or insight? Maybe Chintamani, she's always fired up for preaching, or Govinda Nandini, Suvasini, anybody else? Ananga Krishna. Anyone want to share any?
One thing I was thinking here, it's consistency. Because once you begin, maybe we don't have the answer right immediately. But if we are like consistent, we are there, we are showing people that we have some. The word is consistency. Consistent?
Yes.
Does this word exist in English? So people get used to us, to our lifestyle, to our behavior. And I think you correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I think that's a very nice point, because it, when it's a nice point, because when people see that you're doing something regularly, then they, it can take time for people to become accustomed to something, and so their appreciation is something that can develop over time, and it can also take people time to kind of build up the courage to be able to approach you. So yeah, I think that's a nice point. Robert is suggesting prasadam distribution to homeless. Yes, that's very nice. Chintamani is also welcoming you and Ananga Manjari to contact her.
Okay, I could try that.
Okay. So what's your feedback, Ananga Manjari? Are you happy with all the suggestions?
Yeah, maybe I'll consider going to university. It sounds like a good idea, and I could try like the subtle things, like in school and like with just local people, like be showing like good person, like smiling and wearing like devotional clothes sometimes.
Okay, wonderful.
And I could also say, whenever we did a program at any university or community college, the students are always very happy with prasadam distribution. Yeah. They may not be attracted to the philosophy, but you're offering some very nice sweet or very nice home cooked meal, and they'll be very happy.
Okay, well, anything else on that topic, or do we have another? Ananga Christian Prabhu's joined us. Happy to have you with us, Prabhu, from Tijuana. And Samantha, I think, is our friend in Brighton, a friend of Ananda Srupani, I think. Welcome. Also, happy to have you with us again. Okay, well, any other topics, anybody, for this evening?
We have Varun's question.
Oh yes, that's right. Let me see. If we have time, can you please describe what the Supreme Personality of Godhead truly means? Okay, nice. That expression was coined by Srila. Please, someone correct me if I'm wrong. But I think it was first coined by Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, right? And our Gurudev liked it very much. The Sanskrit is Bhagavan, or Swayam Bhagavan is the Sanskrit, which indicates the original Lord, the possessor of opulence and personality, like that. It is a very nice. I mean, there's a few points here. Godhead is one point, and I believe Srila Saraswati Thakur, who's our great grandfather guru, he would use the word Godhead. I don't remember exactly what phrase he would use, but I'm pretty sure he would use Godhead, because the point is there's a we're recognizing when we come to Krishna consciousness, or in a more general sense, when we come to the presentation of the Vedas, then we're being given a very developed understanding about the nature of divinity and reality as a whole. So, I mean, like, if by contrast, if we look at the theology of Christianity, then, and we appreciate Christianity because Christianity is, one way Srila Sridhar Maharaj has described it is as a hazy form of Vaishnavism. So the main principles of Vaishnavism are there, but in an undefined way, vague, undefined, hazy. So like, by comparison to the Vedic presentation, Christianity is giving a kind of one-dimensional idea. And I'm just saying Christianity just as like a point of comparison that can help us to understand better. What is the conception of God in Christianity? That, there's one God, there's one form that God takes. And he's an old man with a beard, etc., but that's another conversation. But it's a very simplistic idea about divinity, that God is just this one old man, But why is God limited to that? Why can he not have many different forms, many different manifestations, many different roles, many different forms to fulfill different roles and parts? So within Vaishnavism, we find there is a plurality within expressions of God, expressions of divinity. But then there's also a gradation there. So Godhead indicates the source of all gods. And so there are many forms that God takes, but this form is the original, like the fountainhead. Our Gurudev, Brahma Samhita was mentioned earlier. One text, one of our scriptures. And our Gurudev appreciated the first verse very much, which is very helpful here to this discussion. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Nadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. So Ishvara Parama. Ishvara means someone who has a position like a god, a position of it is translated as controller often, but it is more than that. But someone who has the position of a god. So Ishvara Parama. Parama means, oh, sorry, Samantha's saying she's from East London. Okay, I'm sorry, I had you mixed up with someone else.
No worries, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay, now I'm seeing you. I'm sorry. Now I see your face. I remember you. Very nice to have you join us.
Thank you. Thank you for your association. Thank you for your association today.
So param means supreme. Param means the highest, the greatest. So Ishvara Parama, the highest Ishvara amongst all who are Ishvaras. And Ishvara actually has a particular definition. One definition is given: who can do anything and who can undo anything. This is one definition of an Ishvara which is coming to mind. One who can, and I think that's just a part of it, who can do anything and who can undo anything. This is an Ishvara. So someone with the position, control of a god. So amongst all gods, Krishna, Ishvara Parama Krishna, the Param, who is the supreme, is Krishna. So the word Godhead is very helpful here, because just God, it is a the conception of there being just one God. That is it's complicated, because in one sense we do believe in there being just one God, because nobody compares to Krishna, and that was something that our Gurudev, what was it? I'm trying to remember one comment he made. I can't remember. Anyway, I mean, in that sense, there is this similarity with Christianity. But it's a more, it is a, what is it called? Is it monotheistic monotheism? Is that the word? Belief in one God. So in one sense, we are monotheistic. We do believe in there being just one God. However, in Vaishnavism, there's a more developed idea of that. There is one supreme God, and that is Krishna. But then there are other expressions and other forms, extensions, expansions that Krishna takes on, who also have the position of God, but they're on a different level, we can say. But anyway, I think the main point is clear, that Krishna is the word Godhead is very helpful, because it indicates a plurality within divinity, and that Krishna is the fountainhead, is the source of all of that. I think that at least I got that point across amongst all of my ramblings there. And perhaps I should, everything can be a big discussion. So I don't know how much I should. I suppose we could go into more detail since it's the topic. Okay, I'll backtrack a little bit here, and I'll say that the Vedas, they present they describe three principal expressions of divinity. And those three are Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And Brahman describes a formless expression of God, an all-encompassing energy, in which everything is floating within Brahman, and it is as I said, it is formless, without form, without variety, without any variegated nature or specific qualities or characteristics. It is an impersonal expression of divinity. So the Vedas, they actually accommodate all religious conceptions, because what I mean to say is this point about what is the nature of divinity, it is something which is debated, right, within different groups, different lines of thought. Does God, divinity has form or doesn't have form? In some religious systems, it's considered sacrilegious to think of God as having a form. How can the infinite be reduced to having a limited form? It's considered sacrilegious to think like that. And then there are others who celebrate the conception of a personal expression of divinity with a form, with personality, with specific qualities. So this is a point of conflict, right, within different schools of thought. But the Vedas, they are accommodating all of these ideas. And so this idea of divinity as a formless entity, and the idea that we will merge into this great universal oneness, this idea is accommodated for within the Vedas. And it is one facet of reality. It is not something that we deny. It's simply that there's more to the story than just that. So that is Brahman. And literally the word Brahman, it means, what is greater than the greatest and is always becoming greater. This is the literal meaning of the word Brahman, this form of divinity. And then there's Paramatma, which is describing which conversely is describing a very tiny expression of divinity. So there's greater than the greatest, and then there's smaller and then the smallest. And this Paramatma literally means supreme soul. Atma, everybody knows Atma is soul. The Param, as we just mentioned, means, great or supreme. So Paramatma is a very small expression of the Lord, which is accompanying every jivatma, every individual living soul, which means ourselves, and every living entity, every atma and paramatma, they're always next to each other. There's and that paramatma is a feature of the Lord who appears within this world. This world of relativity, within the temporary world, and he's sustaining the life of every individual atma, and also acting as a kind of witness in the lives of each atma. There's one analogy given in the Upanishads of two birds sitting on the branch of a tree. Those two birds representing the Atma and the Paramatma. And it is described that one bird is on that tree, is very busy eating the fruits on that tree, which represents being engaged in karmic activity in this world, reactionary activity in this world. So one bird is very busy actively eating the fruits on this tree, and the other bird is silently sitting and simply observing, watching that. So this is the nature of the relationship between the Atma and Paramatma. So these are we've just described two forms of divinity. And then the third, which is described in the Vedas, is Bhagavan. And literally the word Bhagavan, the word Bhaga means something like opulences, and Van means like the holder of that. So by that is meant a form of the Lord who is the possessor of specific qualities and opulences. Where, compared to the other two, they don't have, Brahman doesn't have any personality or form at all. And Paramatma is in kind of a neutral position. You can't have a relationship with Paramatma. Paramatma is pretty much more or less in a neutral position. And you can't exactly have a relationship with Paramatma. Yes, thank you. Rohit is sharing these particular 6 opulences, which Bhagavan possesses. Here in our chat here. But Bhagavan, who is the possessor of these specific qualities and opulences, he has developed personality, and he has these attractive qualities, and you can actually have a relationship with this form of divinity. So Bhagavan, the Vaishnava, this is the meaning of a Vaishnava. Essentially, a Vaishnava means someone who worships the Bhagavan form of divinity, because there are so many within the Vedic world. There are so many different lines of thought, and in fact the Vedas, because the Vedas are taking a very broad approach, then generally they're pointing more to Brahman, because most people, they're not ready to come to the idea of worshiping a personal entity. Of course, many do, but they don't necessarily believe that that's the highest expression of divinity. There are many groups who may worship a personal deity, but they don't believe that that's necessarily the highest form, expression of divinity. So most are more comfortable with this more vague idea of divinity, and so the Vedas are generally pointing more towards Brahman conception, the impersonal expression of divinity. So there are those who worship Brahman more. There are those who worship Paramatma more, and then there are those who are attracted to Bhagavan and worship the Bhagavan expression as the highest. And the Vaishnavas, they are of that school. We believe that these are all different phases of divinity. And the Bhagavan expression is the most developed and the most original, the source of the others. That is our conception. But then it gets more complicated, because within the category of Bhagavan, the personal entity of divinity, there's not just one or two, but there's an unlimited number of forms who classify as Bhagavan, if we're going to talk like a textbook here. So like for example, there's Ramachandra. Ramachandra is very popular. So he is Bhagavan. He's a personal form of divinity. Vishnu, Narayan is Bhagavan, a personal form of divinity. So this word personality here, this is no doubt why Srila Swami Maharaj is including this. Personality here is indicating Bhagavan expression, a personal, compared to these other expressions, Bhagavan, Brahman and Paramatma, this conception of Krishna is within the Bhagavan category. And as such, he is possessed of personality. He has specific qualities and specific nature, specific charm, etc., etc. And one can have a personal relationship with him. So this Bhagavan is expressed as personality. And then supreme, because there's not just one personality of God, but there's many, and amongst those, Krishna is supreme. He is Param. He is the highest. And then Godhead is indicating that he is the most original of all forms of Bhagavan, of all personal forms of the Lord, as well as the impersonal forms. He is the origin. He is the source. So if we go back to that verse of Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha. Satchidananda's Vigraha means that he is the very embodiment of eternity, consciousness, and ecstasy, bliss, joy. And then Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda, Adir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karana, means that he is the origin of all. He has no origin, and he is the origin of all. And Sarva Karana Karana, he is the cause of all causes. So this is indicated by the word Godhead. He is the origin, he is the source, he is the fountainhead of all expressions of divinity. And we can mention also, as Rohit has shared here, these 6 particular, this is the definition of Bhagavan, who is a Bhagavan, who is the possessor in full of these 6 particular qualities: strength, fame, wealth, knowledge, beauty, and renunciation. So every form of Bhagavan is the possessor of these specific opulences. And amongst all of those forms of Bhagavan, Krishna, he is supreme. Does that cover your question, Varun?
Yeah, it's a lot to think about. But yeah, it clarifies a bit more, because I hear it. I often read about it, but I can't truly know what it means. And so I feel like, I feel like it's something that I need to, in a sense, contemplate on or meditate on as well.
Very nice. Well, thanks for suggesting such a nice topic.
Edie, maybe you can tell us why Krishna is the supreme. Out of all the personalities of Godhead, why Krishna is the supreme.
Okay, that's great. That's a good suggestion. Well, actually, what I was just thinking to say is also related to that, which is, what is very special about Krishna. And this is an explanation given by, I believe, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, one of our acharyas, one of our great teachers. That what is that verse? I can't remember it. But he gives this special explanation of the word Bhagavan in connection with Krishna, that his nature is such that by virtue of his charming qualities, one is irresistibly drawn to serve him. This is something very special about Krishna, that in his homeland, he is not known as God. No, he doesn't have a sign on his door, God. He doesn't have an office that says, God there, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He doesn't have a big signboard which is announcing that. Oh, thank you, Govindranandini. Govindranandini and Chinmoy Prabhu are always very quick with finding quotes and verses. Yeah, here Govindranandini has shared. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Bhajaniya sarva shad guna vishishta. I'll read that. Oh, this is Jiva Goswami. I'm sorry, not Vishwanath Chakravarti. Jiva Goswami is given a particularly fine interpretation of Bhagavan. He says that Bhagavan means Bhajaniya sarva shad guna vishishta. The nature of Bhagavan is such that whatever comes in contact with him feels a natural serving tendency towards his charming personality. He is endowed with such qualities that everyone is drawn to worship him, to love him. He attracts the love of everyone. Everyone wants to serve him. This is Bhagavan. He is endowed with qualities that attract everyone to serve him. So this is what is very special about Krishna, because as I was just saying, he doesn't present himself as God, and it is not amongst his personal companions. It is not known that he is God. So the reason for which his associates and friends, companions, family members serve him is not because they have this consciousness that he's God, but simply because he's so irresistibly attractive and charming that they cannot help themselves. Krishna's love, Krishna's charm, Krishna's beauty, this is what really makes him supreme, because these are really the most powerful forces within existence. And within Krishna, they have the highest expression, to the extent that he's worshipped in his own abode. He's worshipped simply because he's so irresistibly beautiful and charming. His power lies only in his beauty and his charm and nothing else. He's decentralized himself, but his position is actually, he's like undercover, we could say. But what this does is it highlights love and charm and beauty as having the highest position. In Christianity, everyone is very familiar with the conception of God the Father, the conception of God as the great almighty being, this father-like figure who takes care of us, who supplies us all of our needs. And we are all like his children, who is, he's our benefactor, and we are dependent on him, and he's caring for us, right? This is not just in Christianity, but any line of thought that accepts a personal, being as God, it's generally along these lines, right? God is the person who takes care of us, he's our father, we are his children, etc., right? So this is actually like an immature conception of who God is. It is like the way that children will see their parents, right? Children will generally see their parents relative to themselves and their own needs, right? When we're children, we don't think about our parents' personal lives so much, right? We think about how they exist in relation to ourselves and our own needs, you know. Like we see with children, sometimes they'll remember you because of something that you did for them. You know, it's all because they, you know, their horizons are quite limited at that level of that stage of development. So they can't think too far past their own, you know, immediate experience and environment. So, you know, daddy and mommy, they're the ones who take care of me, and they give me food and they give me chocolate and et cetera, you know, and our parents exist relative to ourselves. And it, you know, but then as we get older, then we begin to think, oh, mommy has her own life, daddy has his own life. You know, mommy has her own friends and her own likes and dislikes, et cetera, and we'll develop a more mature relationship with our parents as time goes by. That mommy's not just the person who gives me breakfast and lunch, et cetera, and the person who pays for the things that I need, but mommy is a person in her own right who has her own experiences and her own life, et cetera, and we'll begin to develop a different relationship with them in that way as we become more, you know, broad in our understanding. So in the same way, a more undeveloped conception of God is that God exists relative to our existence within this world. And in that sense, we're actually putting ourselves at the center. And God is someone on the circumference. We're in the center, and God's on the circumference, who's supplying to us the things that we need. And he's the Father, we're the children. But in Krishna consciousness, we're being presented with a radical conception of God, and that we're being introduced to him as a person in his own rights. So who is God beyond the person who just takes care of us? You know, what is his personal life? What are his likes and dislikes, and who are his friends, and what does he like to do, and what does he like to eat, et cetera, et cetera. You know, it's being turned around in Krishna consciousness. So one way that our gurus have presented this is as the sonhood of God. You know, we you know, the fatherhood of God is an undeveloped conception of God. But in Krishna consciousness, we're being presented with the sonhood of God. You know, we're being introduced to God in his personal life, where he chooses to appear as a beautiful, charming boy. You know? Because apparently the person who's in the position of authority, the person who's in the position of a parent, they are in the superior position. If we're looking at this dynamic of a family, you know, the parents, they're, you know, from one perspective, you'll say the parents are in control. The parents have the money, the parents have the power, the parents are supplying everything. And the children, they have to follow what their parents say, et cetera, et cetera. So this is one angle of vision. You know, this is one way of considering power. But if you examine that whole dynamic more closely, then you'll consider, well, actually, from another angle of vision, the parents are working hard every day to take care of the children, so the children can have a good time. The children can play. The children, they don't have to worry about, you know, messing up or making mistakes, because their parents will just take care of it. You know, the parents are cooking for the children, the parents are working for the children, et cetera, et cetera. And the children simultaneously the children are charming their parents, with their beauty, with their charm. The parents are captivated by their children, and in that sense, the children can actually control the parents, and the parents can be compelled to do the most menial and also ridiculous things for the sake of their children. A child can have their parents crawling on the ground, making silly noises, playing silly games, etc., etc. So if you look at power from this angle of vision, then you'll say, actually, there's greater, rather than power lying within a particular position or role, there's greater power within beauty, within charm, within love. So this is what is very special about the Krishna form of divinity, the Krishna conception of divinity, because he's controlling things in this underground kind of way, not through holding that role, that public role of God, but simply in this underground kind of way, through love and through beauty and through charm. He's captivating everyone, irresistibly drawing everyone. So from one angle of vision, right, he's appearing as this young boy, and sometimes he's holding his father's shoes on his head. Sometimes his mother has to give him some chastisement. Sometimes he's falling at the feet of his beloved. Sometimes he's massaging the feet of his friends. He's wrestling with his friends and being defeated. So from one angle of vision, we can say he's not in the most powerful position. But from another angle of vision, we'll say that he's in a more powerful position because he's controlling everything from the standpoint of love. He's actually more prominently in a central position. He's situated in such a position so that he can have the maximum degree of loving relationships to the maximum degree of intensity. This is the specialty of the Krishna conception of divinity. In a word, this is called in Sanskrit a prakrita. There are different how can we say, different levels. I don't know the right one. Sometimes the word knowledge is used, but that can be understood in different ways. But let's say this is the highest this is described as the highest expression of reality. That is a prakrita. And the word whereas by if we take by contrast adhokshaja, within the spiritual reality, we're kind of having like a Krishna consciousness 101 today, as it turns out. But within the spiritual, there's the whole zone where we are of the material reality. And then there's the whole world of spiritual reality. And there are different zones there. As I said, the Vedas are not giving us a one-dimensional idea of the nature of reality and divinity. It's very refined and very developed. So within the spiritual sky, let's say, there are different zones. It's not like there's heaven and we sit on clouds, it's not like that. But there's within the spiritual sky, there are also unlimited zones and areas, and there's a gradation there also. so if we just for the sake of like highlighting the nature of Krishna's abode, then we can compare with Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha is the abode of Vishnu, Narayan. And the nature of Vishnu, Krishna, Vishnu's nature is characterized by what is called Aishwarya. Aishwarya means majesty, opulence, grandeur. And Krishna's nature, the nature of Krishna's abode is a prakrita. And so a prakrita, I still haven't said what that actually means. The word aprakrita means that which appears to be material, which appears to be human-like, but is actually not. It is supramundane. Sometimes we use that word. So the word prakrita means material or mundane, and aprakrita it means not mundane. So appearing to be ordinary, appearing to be mundane, but it is not. This is the nature of Krishna's abode, and it is actually a higher expression of divinity than that of the Aishwarya or Adhokshaja expression, where it is very apparent that this is God. Vishnu has that signboard, I am God. But Krishna doesn't. Krishna is appearing in this very hidden way. But this is actually a higher expression of divinity. It is like you could say, if you take some very powerful, famous person in this world, they have their public profile, right? And then they have their family life. They have their private family life. So Krishna and Krishna's homeland is like the private family life of God. If we think of things in terms of a gradation, then the inner life, the private life of a great person is more valuable than what's their public life. How they are known to the public, how they interact with the public. That's of a lower order than who they are and what they are and how they interact, in their private personal relationships and personal dynamics. So the position of Krishna is like that. It is God when he's just being himself, when he's just comfortably being himself and being loved for who he is, not what he is. This is something that famous people struggle with sometimes, right? That they experience that people like them or approach them because of the position that they have, right? And they can feel this frustration. I just want people to like me as a person, like who I am, not because of the role or the position that I have. So Krishna is like that. Krishna is God when he's being loved just for who he is, not because of what he is. We can also say the specialty of Krishna is that Krishna allows for the closest approach of the finite to the infinite. In the form of Krishna, one can have very intimate interactions. Another way we can look at this whole discussion is from the point of view of rasa. The word rasa, it is difficult to translate into English, but rasa means like a particular taste, a particular type of enjoyment or satisfaction. And rasa is what ultimately we are all seeking after. We are all looking for in everything that we do, in everything that we endeavor for, we're seeking a particular rasa in different types of foods that we eat, drinks that we consume, in movies that we watch, in different activities that we go upon, climbing a mountain, watching a sunrise, watching a sunset, etc., etc. There's a particular feeling, particular type of satisfaction that we're searching in all of these different activities, and that is rasa. So there's different types of rasa, and this is one like scientific way in which our gurus, our teachers have approached this issue. That Krishna possesses the most developed range of rasa. Krishna is described by one of our gurus, Srila Rupa Goswami, as a Kila Rasamrita Murti, which means that he is the embodiment of all types of rasa. So every type of experience, every type of fulfillment, every type of sensation, every type of relationship, it is all available in connection with Krishna. In other forms of the Lord, there's a limit to how much you can exchange. So like if we're taking the comparison of Vishnu, then, because Vishnu is such a majestic figure, then there's a limit to how close you can get to him. You cannot play with Vishnu. You would be too afraid to do that. Our Gurudev, he expressed, I like Allah. Allah is so great, I like Allah so much, but I cannot play football with Allah. And I want to play football with my Lord. So this is what is so special about Krishna, that this type of intimate exchange is possible with him. One can be a friend, one can be a girlfriend, one can have a parental relationship in connection with Krishna. Whereas there's more restriction in connection with other forms of the Lord. The scriptures in particular, they describe 5 types of relationships, 5 principal relationships which are available with the Lord. Shanta means like a passive relationship. Dasya refers to a relationship of servitude. Sakya refers to a relationship of friendship. Vatsalya refers to a parental kind of relationship, or where one has the role of a parent, of a superior to the Lord. And then the highest, most developed relationship is Madhura Ras, which refers to the amorous or conjugal relationship with the Lord. So this is one way in which this subject is approached by our gurus, that all 5 of these relationships, they are available with Krishna and only with Krishna. Whereas in other forms of God, other forms of Bhagavan, there's more of a limit there. So like if we take Vishnu again by comparison, sometimes Vaikuntha, the abode of Vishnu, is described as the plane of 2.5 rasas, or where there's 2.5 relationships available with Vishnu. There is the Shanta relationship, the passive relationship, that usually refers to plant life or animals. And then Dasya, the mood of servitorship, the relationship of servitude is there. And then some may have some touch of Sakya, friendship, so it's like counts as half. Some may have somewhat more intimate relationship. But the other rasas, the other relationships are not available with Vishnu. Vishnu doesn't have any parents. He's just eternally existent. So that relationship is not available. That's a more developed expression of the heart, where you love someone so much that you want to take care of them, that you feel like, it's funny sometimes when you see persons, they have this like maternal or paternal feeling towards you. They tend to think of you as being helpless, It's a particular expression of love, right? I'm sure all of you have experienced this, from parents or aunts or uncles or anyone, a grandmother, grandfather, or anyone older. They'll even though you may be 30 years old, 40 years old, they'll worry about you going on a trip or going to the shops, or it's a particular expression of love where you think of someone as being helpless and dependent upon you. So this is the essence of Vatsalya Ras, the relation, being in the role of a superior, expressing love as a superior. It's a peculiar relationship, because you love them so much that you think you are more than them, but in the sense that you have to take care of them. So it's a very particular kind of feeling. It's like you're an inferior and a superior at the same time. So anyway, in Vaikuntha, this expression of heart is not possible. Vishnu is just eternally existent. But with Krishna, that expression of heart is possible. So his appearing as a beautiful teenage boy, it is more conducive to that expression of heart. So his mother, his father, relatives, and so many others, they have this opportunity to feel, oh, I have to take care of Krishna. He can't manage without me. He needs me. That expression of heart, of love, is possible in connection with Krishna. So it's a very interesting angle of vision, because normally persons, they think of God as God has to be a very supernatural being, right? So the idea of Vishnu is more majestic. Vishnu has 4 arms. Vishnu has no parents. This fits the more conventional idea of God. But from this other angle of vision, that position, it inhibits the expression of heart. So like according to the science of relationships, according to the science of loving relationships, then Krishna is in a more developed position. Because from that angle of vision, he's in a position to allow for a greater variety and a greater degree of intensity in loving relationships. So this relationship of a parent is available in connection with Krishna, and then the amorous relationship, it is not available in Vaikuntha with Vishnu, because he has one consort, that is Lakshmi. Nobody else can occupy that role. Whereas Krishna, he can reciprocate with millions and billions of girlfriends. So yeah, well, I've been talking a lot. I think I feel like I should stop. Well, I'm surprised everybody's still here. We've got 18 participants here.
Yeah, thank you. That makes it much more clear.
Okay.
So yeah.
yeah, that's a nice add-on to that topic of the Supreme Personality of God. Yeah, I should have added that before. But anyway, thank you, Chinmoy Prabhu, for initiating that discussion.
Thank you, Didi. Beautiful explanation. And I'd also just like to mention, because one of my favorite quotes from Srila Sridhar Maharaj in his song Prema Dharma Deva Stotram, and where he says in the 66th verse, this is the all-conquering conclusion. The ultimate form of reality must also be the ultimate form of ecstasy. Very nice description of Krishna, I feel.
Jai, very nice. Okay, well, should we finish there for this evening or morning over there on the other side of the world? Nandarani has also joined us from San Jose, Dandavat, Didi, and Rukmini's also joined us from Alachua, Florida. Very happy you're all with us here today. Okay, well, I guess we'll stop there.
Thank you so much. Dandos Vishakha Didi. Thank you so much for explaining so nicely. Yeah, very sweet.
Thank you, Guru.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you.
Dandavad, Dandavad.
Thank you. You're on fire.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Vishakha Devi
Thank
Dasi.
Jai, Jai
Thank you.
Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, all the assembled devotees and sincere ki Jai. Jai Chinmoy Prabhu ki Jai, Govinda Nabi Jai, Suvasana Giri ki Jai, Chintamani Jai Dev ki Jai. I will sign out here. Hope you all have a very happy week ahead, and hopefully we can connect again next Monday. Okay, bye for now.
Thank you.